Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Religion is Gray. I hope you all are having a lovely day today. It's currently a pretty cloudy day here up in where I live. The sun is setting right now, but the weather's really cold and I'm more of a summer person myself, but regardless, I'm so glad you guys could be with us today to tune into the next episode of Religion is Gray. Now, today, in this episode, we are going to be talking about why exactly it is so difficult to debate religion. Something I think some of us who have tried to debate religion online or have tried to debate religion in the past might have run into. Just as like when you try to debate religion, it's like a constant back and forth of someone trying to tell you one version of the religion and then you try to rebuttal with your version, and it seems to go into like a clash. And today we're going to talk about why this clash happens and possibly some ways that you can debate religion without having this clash. So we can really boil down to why religion is so hard to debate into 3 reasons, and we're going to discuss all of them in this video, but we're going to start with the first reason, which is interpretation versus interpretation. Now, what exactly does that mean? Interpretation versus interpretation is defined by this idea that two people who read the same story are going to interpret that story very differently, and that is no exception to religious books. When you have two Christians read the Bible, two of them are going to have vastly different interpretations of what the Bible meant, and that notion is exactly what led all of the denominations of Christianity to come into existence. And separating it from Christianity, two pagans are going to have vastly different interpretations of their gods than what another pagan might. So the problem here is that people base their beliefs around these interpretations, around these religious books, and it soon doesn't even become arguing interpretation versus interpretation, but becomes arguing belief versus belief. And because it's someone's interpretation that decides that belief, it ends up leading into this kind of argument of, well, this is what my belief says through what I think this book says, and then someone else saying, well, this is what I think this book says, and that's how I got this belief. And again, the problem is that when people make their belief around a religious book that is open to interpretation, they oftentimes will, again, putting their belief on the line, and when that belief is questioned, and they are having to almost contemplate their belief system, it leads into them having very irrational, very unruly tactics almost, and how they'll start throwing insults at you, they'll start making fun of you, they'll do anything they can to get under your skin instead of just letting their belief systems be questioned. So that's kind of why it's real difficult to debate religion, or one reason it's difficult to debate religion is because trying to debate interpretation will not get you anywhere. Because again, people are going to interpret the same book differently. Everyone's going to read that book and they're going to have a different interpretation of it. So that's why it's really difficult to debate interpretation. Now, that we know the first reason why it's so hard to debate religion, let's talk about the second reason, which is emotions and experience. Now, what exactly do I mean by emotions and experience? So, emotions and experience is defined by someone who will debate with emotions and their personal experience rather than debating with logical facts. And I actually wanted to use a quote from a quare that was actually talking about the topic we're talking about today, which is why it's hard to debate religion. And I wanted to kind of use his quote as a good example. He says, because one side is trying to use facts and logic and another is wrapped in emotions, so there's no winning in this sort of debate. Consider this argument: the sky is blue. No, it's not. Stop lying. But the sky is blue. It is not green. It's not blue. It's green. It's always been green. Why are you so threatened by a green sky? I'm not threatened. This sky has always been green. Since I was a child, my father and I often went fishing on wonderful summer days with clear green sky. And now you want to tear that down? You want to deny children today of the joys of a green sky? You're a horrible person. But you are Satan incarnated. But your kind needs to be eliminated from this planet. And then he goes on to say that this is modern debates in America today. And yes, he's absolutely right. In modern day society, people really do get wrapped up in their own emotions that they don't really want to debate with logic or reasoning and things. People would much rather debate with their experience and use that as a way to convince someone else that they should come to their side, or that these events are true and this is how great their said God is. The problem is that, one, you can't prove to anyone that your experiences are true, and two, just because you resign with that God doesn't mean someone else does. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about that in another video. I'm not going to go in depth on that, but that's kind of the issue that there is with debating with emotion and experience. You can't prove to the person that, one, your experience happened, or two, that even if you do say it was Jesus healing me, you can't prove to them that it was Jesus. And even basic spiritual guides or spiritual studies will tell you that you have to make your own judgment on those things. You can't let other people try to tell you what you feel. So now that we have the other two out of the way, which is interpretation versus interpretation and emotions and experience, the last one we will be talking about is people who respect authority don't question it. And this one's a little bit bigger to kind of discuss. That I'll be kind of using another quote from the same Quore post that I thought was really important. But asking the question, what do I mean when I say that people who respect authority don't question it? To help some people understand that idea that people who respect authority don't question it, I think a good example to look at to understand that idea is to just look at people with modern politics. People oftentimes who really resign hard with one political affiliation, I think Democrat or Republican, we can all agree that this happens a lot in politics. People who respect high power or high power people don't oftentimes question their authority. They will defend their candidate with their life, even if their candidate gets convicted of massive amounts of crimes. We've actually seen that on both sides, so I know that some people would probably throw the implication I'm talking about Donald Trump here, because some of the recent allegations going out. No, this has happened on both sides. If you look into history, this is something that has happened. And that is just a kind of an example, so people can better understand why people who respect authority don't question it. Now, moving on to how this applies to religion, I think that this Quore post really says this point well. When I was a much younger Christian, I had a friend who was a born-again, and like most, if not all born-again Christians, he was adamant or stubborn regarding the alleged flammability of the Bible. He was one of those who says, the Bible said it, I believe it, that settles it. If the Bible says thus and so, then thus and so is true, is per definition true. If XXX contradicts the Bible, then XXX must be false, QED, or so believers think. My friend finally laid it out to me when he said, the problem is you don't accept the Bible's authority. With that, in retrospect, was the key point. Believers accept authority. When they reject authority, they accept. When we reject authority, they accept. They stop listening to us. They may be understanding our words, but the chances that they will believe us is essentially nil. Someone who accepts authority is not open to reason. They are only open to commands. And to me, this is a very correct point about why people who respect authority don't really want to talk about religion, or why people who respect authority don't question it. Because people who are in whatever religious orthodox they're in, they don't question their God's words, their God's judgment. They just respect that the God knows what is best for them. And when you're a child, you oftentimes respect and know that your parents know what's best for you. You don't question what your parents do for you, not at least until you get older, when that authority isn't really there or is as much prevalent in your life anymore. which is kind of why some people go into atheists. But the problem here, or the point here, is that people who are with very strong authority, people who are obedient to their gods, don't want to question it because they know that that God is doing everything good for them, although it must, or this, they believe so. If you look into history, there's a good example of totalitarianism that kind of really emphasizes this notion of trying to overly respect authority and not questioning it. But the problem that you have when you don't question authority is that you really do blind yourself to any other thing that might make more sense. And again, we see this really prevalent with politics in modern day society. Now, with us all knowing the 3 reasons why it's hard to debate religion, I wanted to kind of wrap this up with some of my own thoughts and experiences on how I even got those 3 reasonings. I got those 3 reasonings from personal experience mostly, just dealing with trying to debate people, and oftentimes what I'd noticed that they do, also asking other people their own experiences with debating religion and what the people were doing when they would debate it. But one thing I wanted to add that I didn't add at the beginning of the video was it's really hard to debate religion because religion in itself is open to interpretation. And religion essentially is for you. And the problem is that when people are trying to debate religion, they keep trying to debate that what they're using for them should be applied to what someone else is doing so to be used for them. I hope that made sense. I'll try to rephrase it a little bit more in case someone's confused. What people think is right for them, they want to think is what's right for everyone. But the problem is that with religion, that's not the case. What's right for you isn't going to be what's right for Sally Dew over there. You understand what's right for you. You have these experiences, or you don't have any experiences, like some atheists do. And the thing is that you should not be trying to force what you think is right for you onto other people. Because we are all different people, we all have different versions of right and wrong, and what, again, you feel is right for you is not going to be what feels right for the other person. And like I said earlier in the video, not everyone is going to resign with the same God. So, the issue with the concept of debating religion is that it always will boil down to a belief, and beliefs that contradict each other, and people are not open to listening to the idea that their beliefs have any questions or could possibly be wrong or anything. But you really can't prove that your belief is the only true belief, which is what I was also going to say in this thing with interpretation versus interpretation. You can't prove that your belief is the only true belief out there. There's always going to be contradictions, and until people can realize that, society's not ever going to get anywhere with understanding religion. So a lot of this, from where I got these first, like I said, was from my own personal experiences, but I already added what I wanted to add, so yeah. Thank you guys for coming out today. It's been lovely having a chat with you, and I hope you all have a lovely day.